here with us today for our 2019 Sojourn. When we have events, there are two things we cannot control. We cannot control the creek and we cannot control the weather. And today, both of those are as best as they could be, so I'm very thankful for that. A little bit about French Creek Valley Conservancy. So French Creek Valley Conservancy was formed in 1982 as a grassroots organization, a group of concerned citizens in Conneaut Lake. Actually, the organization was originally the Conneaut Lake French Creek Valley Conservancy, but it was concerned citizens who got together and were worried about the activities that were going around along Conneaut Lake. Since then, we've grown and changed direction. We are now an accredited land trust. We just went through our reaccreditation process, so we've been accredited for 5 years now. But French Creek Valley Conservancy now owns or protects more than 2,100 acres of land throughout the French Creek watershed. That land is all under our permanent protection, which means it will never be developed into the future. And we're on track this year to probably acquire another 750 acres of land this year.
Wow.
We've got a couple really big transactions coming up this year. But last year we had more than 750 registered participants for the cleanup. We collected almost 32,000 pounds of garbage from French Creek, its major tributaries, and some properties around the watershed. So it's a great day of stewardship, and this year we're going to have a little twist. We're going to have some other stewardship activities on that day. We'll be doing some sign installation and some other stewardship projects, not necessarily trash cleanup on some of our properties. The thing that makes these properties so important is these are our riparian areas. These are the forested buffers that protect French Creek. So a lot of times when we are looking at our priorities for conserving land, these riparian buffers, properties immediately adjacent to the creek, rise to the top of our list because they're incredibly important. They prevent erosion of the banks. They essentially act as a buffer to slow surface water and runoff as it flows to the creek. And they're a sponge and a filter. They filter out runoff water as it makes its way into the creek. So it's important for us to maintain these forested areas along the creek.
And it's such an interesting and unique watershed that the Nature Conservancy in the early 2000s actually named the French Creek watershed one of the last great places in the Western Hemisphere, right up with major ecosystems like Yosemite, Yellowstone, major ecosystems. So it was recognized then as this wonderful treasure, and we really do believe that it is a wonderful treasure. The watershed itself encompasses 1,270 square miles. The creek starts in Chautauqua County, New York, and it flows south 117 miles through the counties of Erie, Crawford, a little bit of Mercer, and then into Venango, where it meets the Allegheny, which you'll see today at the confluence where it reaches the Allegheny River in Franklin. From there, the water flows south towards Pittsburgh. The entire continent of Europe, if you take all those countries together and add up how many mussels they have in all those countries in the entire continent of Europe, they have 8. And here in our backyard, we have 27 different species of freshwater mussels. So our diversity is just off the charts. We also have endangered species in the watershed, and lots of endangered species. We have over 35 species of plants that are endangered. We have several species of birds that are endangered. We have 2 species of darters that are endangered. We have 5 species of mussels that are endangered. So lots of endangered species that live and thrive in the French Creek watershed. And we have over 3,000 species of native plants, and of course lots of mammals, reptiles, amphibians, etc. In the watershed. But of course our favorite species is now the state amphibian, and that is the Hellbender Salamander. And this is actually what they look like. Of course they're not stiff like this, they're very weak and very slippery. But they do excrete that mucus to make them really, really slippery. They've got the short little legs, short little body. They help propel themselves through the water using their rudder-like tail. So today I'm going to talk to you about freshwater mussels. At one time, the mussels of French Creek actually supported a multi-million-dollar button industry before the invention of plastics. So they actually made buttons out of mussel shells. So on February 25th, 1826, the state of Pennsylvania passed an act authorizing the commencement of canal system known as the Pennsylvania Canal to be constructed at the expense of the state. The system was for encouraging trade by means of waterway, which would provide access for the timber, mining, and manufacturing of all parts of the Commonwealth.